Crazy times in the crypto market, uncertainty, a lot of fear, and a whole lot to be optimistic about. This past week, China's new AI company drastically shocked the markets with their AI vastly overperforming any expectations and supposedly costing less than 1/100th the cost of what US AI companies were spending, sending the tech, stock, and crypto markets into a complete tumble. Now, newly installed President Trump in the US passing a crypto executive order about putting together a commission to study and recommend solutions in the coming 6 months. This hasn't yet done anything for the crypto markets prices. So is it bullish? Or does it mean that we'll be way over 6 months before the US does anything sensible with their legislation towards crypto? Well, we'll take a look at the prices and see what information we can gather there. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel and our family. Now, if you, like me, came into crypto because you realize there's potential here for life-changing gains over a greater 4 to 8 year period, and you're looking for discussions on becoming a solid, unshakable, savage crypto investor, like a Navy SEAL of crypto investing, you're in exactly the right place and with the right family, the Rainmaker family. Now, the reason I created this channel is because I was once new to the crypto space myself almost 8 years ago. And back then I was looking for a crypto channel and a group that understood crypto as a really important investment, realizing that it was the new sector of tech growth. And I wanted strong analysis on different projects, the pros and cons of those projects. I realized that there was a 4-year life cycle to crypto, that every 4 years the market would go absolutely crazy. From bottom to top, it was 2 years different. And I wanted a group that talked about these things because they're so relevant to really making life-changing wealth on crypto. And I found most YouTube channels, they didn't really understand these concepts at a deep level. Their background wasn't investing, and so this was all new and foreign to them. But I wanted something like that. I came from a traditional investment background and had been investing in cycles, specifically with real estate, for almost 20 years. So crypto made sense, got a much shorter life cycle, but I was looking for a group that talked about these most important things. When I didn't find that, we created, and I say we because it's not just me anymore, it's a family of rainmakers, and you'll see them here in the chat. You will find them in our free Telegram group. There is a link to that below. You will definitely find them in our private Patreon group. That allows you access to our Rainmaker private Discord. The private Discord is where the best discussion, best info is. There are other benefits too, but you would have to join us to find out. To join the Discord, you have to join the Patreon, and then it does connect up to your Discord. If you have any problems, reach out to me and we will get that solved. It is a little bit of a hurdle there. Once you're in there, it is a great group of amazing individuals, and we talk about these really important things. Now, do note, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a crypto investor myself. Paul, who is joining us today from DEFFINITY, is an investor in many different markets, not just crypto. And none of what's said here is to be taken as financial advice. So make it rain on that like button, strap in for the show, and help me welcome Paul from DEFFINITY. Paul, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure as always. We live in interesting times, as the Chinese say, and it's coming up to the Chinese New Year. So we could see some interesting movements in those markets, perhaps helping the crypto market move forward. So we shall see.
Yeah, somebody with some background in China was telling me that around the Chinese New Year leading up to it, a lot of the big decision makers, they travel, kind of like we see from London during certain time periods in their holidays. And then after the new year, they come back into the office and then they're ready to make the bigger decisions and often bigger swings.
Yeah, I think there could be tax implications. I'm not really sure, I'd have to look into it, but there may be a sell towards the end of the tax year and then a rebuy. So it might be that the Chinese stock market is going to consolidate a little bit until the new year, and then we'll see it take off because this new AI that's come out has shifted everybody's focus back on China. And I've been pretty bullish on China, which has been against the rest of the market for quite some time. I've thrown the charts up there every now and again, but going back a few years, it's been part of the puzzle that actually makes it a super bull market for crypto and all the other markets together, this big risk on play. So I thought it was quite interesting. Well, two main things I thought were very interesting about the past few days. First of all, Wall Street and the other equity markets and what have you that got hit by this new Chinese AI have bounced back pretty nicely, and the charts still look really good for the market to go higher. And B, that it has shifted the focus a little bit on what they might be potentially doing in the future. So I think both of those ultimately are bullish, because it would. I don't want to see tariffs come in America. I don't think that's a good thing, and I think it ultimately will hurt the US economy, and it's being used as a weapon. The problem is the weapon can be used against you as well, and nobody wins. And I also think that, and this is outside of my technical views, because my views are really driven by what the markets are doing technically, but that doesn't mean I can't think up some ideas that might fit around the scenario or the narrative going forwards. And I think that when I listened to the Elon Musk interview on Joe Rogan, it was interesting that he said he was talking about what Tesla is as a business. And as a business, the hardest thing about putting a car company or making and manufacturing cars, it's not the technology in the cars, it's actually building the bloody thing. And if you put tariffs on certain products, you may end up ruining your supply line. Now, perhaps they'll think of that. Maybe they will, and they should, given that Elon's got his ear. But it may be shooting yourself in the foot. So the problem is, I think Trump's really got it into his head that tariffs are the answer. And it might look like he's going to get away with that because of the way the markets are operating. We're in a bull market, and it might look like people like that. But ultimately, I don't think it's a really good idea. In the same way that the crypto space has got a lot of upside, but it's really not a great idea for him to be issuing Trump coin and Melania coin or whatever the hell, as we discussed last week. And a lot of the pro crypto people I've spoken to between our interview and today have said exactly the same thing. You know, this is not a good look. You know, if you're a president, you should get on with being president. You don't need to make money on the side with a coin. And if your son is trying to do that and cash in, it's up to you to tell him to behave in a much better way, because it's fair enough to be critical of Biden and the Hunter Biden scandal and all of that stuff, but don't go in and start making the same. I know it's very different, but you want to be above all of this. You know, you want to be, impeachable. You want to have great credibility. You want to show the way forward, and this is not showing the way forward. But having said that, the US economy is probably going to do really well, and we're a few hours, I think, excuse me, I think we're about an hour or so away from the interest rate decision, and there's going to be no change. There's a good chance that there'll be no change in interest rates, probably over 90%. But funnily enough, I think the dollar might take that badly. I have this feeling, and I know we talked about it last week, and I've discussed the dollar moving down, and the chart's actually looking more and more interesting that it's moving in that direction. So I'm wondering whether this is it for the dollar and it starts to go down pretty fast. Maybe the US markets consolidate a bit and some of the European and other markets start to play catch up, but we'll see. We can have a look through the charts and see what's going on. But crypto at the moment, whenever Trump, the inauguration was always going to be a major event in terms of excitement and focus on crypto. And whenever that happens, when there's a lot of heat on something, I prefer to withdraw and just wait, because we don't want too much focus on it. We want things to calm down. We want a orderly rise in the market. We don't want things going up too fast and being overhyped. We want a nice smooth upward trend with consolidations. Yes, a lot of things have come back, but there's also a lot of things that are hanging in there pretty nicely. And I don't think this has changed the trend. And once again, sentiment with Bitcoin over 100,000 seems to have changed to being really bearish. And people are suddenly saying, this is it, it's all over. Here we go again, exactly what we had at 74,000.
Yeah, we are live. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Jorge Lucio says, all the coin you advise us to buy last season went to zero. First of all, I don't advise anyone to buy any coins. So clearly there's a misunderstanding. Number two, where have you been? Because that is not even close to accurate. It's not even remotely accurate. So I don't know. Jorge, you've got a number of things wrong there. The best time of the week, morning rain, and Paul says sour D. Abe says, hi there. I'm only here for financial advice. Kidding. He says, my favorite duo. DevvE is going to fly when the NASDAQ announcement comes out. Seems like it's right around the corner. Well, that would be amazing if NASDAQ is their strategic partner exchange they've been talking about. Yeah, I'm excited about DevvE's future as well. So Bitcoin chart, interesting. It seems like it's just consolidating. What are you seeing in the markets, Paul? What has your attention? Both, I guess we'll talk about Bitcoin in a second, but as you're looking across all the different markets, what's acting and what price action is being interesting?
Yeah. So I'm just looking at some of the comments. It was a fun book, 0 and 4 years. Well, it's not over. I don't think it's over, but it's great that people think it is, and they're going to sell up. So
I think he's kidding with us.
Yeah, of course he is.
Friend.
Yeah. I think, of course he is. That's great stuff. So let's get the charts up then, shall we?
Yeah.
So here we have, this is the Dow Jones Industrials. That doesn't look like a bearish chart to me. It's still in a bull trend. Consolidating near the highs. It's really bounced back quite nicely. The trend is your friend. It's up. So this is the transportation. Again, this has been pressing the upside. It's had a go at this major high. It's come off again. We've got a higher low. You can see that with the moving averages very clearly. You can see that by eye with the price action. That's getting ready to break 18,000. So I don't think there's anything bearish about that at this stage. Remember, everything's probabilities. Just because it looks like that doesn't mean it's 100%. There's always a chance that that's wrong. But the technicals are looking at the probabilities, and that looks like where it's going to go. It looks like it's going to go up. That's all fairly consistent. The NASDAQ, which apparently took a big hit. I mean, can you see that big hit on the weekly chart? I can't. It just looks like it's still going up. If you didn't know the news, you'd say, well, nothing's happened, nothing to see here. So the week hasn't ended yet, and we'll see if it's a lower close. I'd say 20,571, that low print of a couple of days ago, that's interesting because that's near the high here. And if that breaks, yeah, we might get a correction, but a correction in a bull market, not a correction that implies that the trend is over. So S&P, it touched or made a new high, came off it again. It's still consolidating. I don't know. That still looks good to me. And the Russell 2000, which is the smaller cap stocks, still pressing towards those highs. So yeah, there could be a bit of volatility here, and that's to be expected, but I don't think anything's changed, and there's still more upside to come. If we have a bit of a consolidation over the next few months, so be it, but these are very big, powerful trends, and nothing seems to be over yet. So the risk on is there, and the outlook for, further upside spilling into the more risk on assets like Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies is still in play. So there's more to come this year. If we actually have a quick look at China, so we can see there was a big article in January 24 saying that this was in a huge bear market and deflation, and that was the low of the market. And since then, it's just gone up. Now, it's been a very volatile move higher, but it is rising. So these are higher lows. The market's still moving up. And like I say, this is a big player. And if this really starts to trend, it's going to be extremely interesting from a broad market perspective, the second biggest economy in the world. If that's trending higher, there'll be a lot of money spilling into crypto. And that's where we'll get the kind of end game coming in, possibly next year, possibly the end of this year. We'll have to see. It's one of those things we don't know. We know what it'll look like when we see it, but putting a time frame on it can also be a fool's game. So But it just doesn't look like at this stage that it's over. So the trend is up. The Hong Kong market looks a bit more bullish. You can see how it's kind of breaking out here, and it's got this big resistance up here at 22,900. And when it breaks that, it's in a nice upward trend. We could be looking at some interesting levels up here at 27. So this is the as I said at the opening of the show, putting these pieces of the puzzle together is what will create a really nice strong bull market. And to kind of reinforce that point, if we look at the gold market and how that's going up, silver is trying to go up, but it's not quite as bullish. And then you've got platinum, which is going sideways, and palladium, which is again only just starting to move. So if platinum and palladium start moving up higher, then we've got a really strong bull market in precious metals. So this is what we need to see. We need to see everything moving higher. And that applies also to cryptocurrencies. We want to see Bitcoin higher, which it is, but we also want to see ETH higher, Solana, everything moving higher. All tide, the tide will make all the boats rise, as the phrase goes, and that's what we're expecting to see at some stage. Now, we're not at that point yet. There is a bit of fragmentation, which means that there's a little bit of uncertainty, and there's nothing wrong with uncertainty. Uncertainty just means that we're not near the end of the trend, and especially when we're trading at higher levels. So we like to see this uncertainty. Now, as far as the US dollar goes, we hit this high at 110 or close to 110. It's been coming off. We've had a little rebound today, but remember the announcement's out, so people are expecting no change. So of course they're going to be buying dollars into that because they say, oh, no change, to support the dollar because rates are going up in the US. Rates aren't going up in the US. Rates are going down in the US. They're going to go down on the next move. And when they do, well, this will factor it in first anyway, but this is partly why the markets are still so buoyant, because they're waiting for another rate cut. They foresee another rate cut, even though the media hasn't cottoned on to it. So a rate cut will push up risk assets. It'll push up the equity markets again, it'll push the dollar down, all of which will feed into itself and push risk on assets up again. And you get what's called this virtuous cycle, which will ultimately lead to a bust. But at the moment, it will be, in the interim, it will be a positive thing. So if we look at, where is it? Bonds. I think bonds have been interesting because they've started to there we go. There's the 3 month. I got to take it off log so you can see it properly. The three month interest rates, that chart still looks negative. That looks like it's got more to go on the downside. That's not telling me that within 3 months that rates will be higher. 6 months is looking the same. 2 year, it's had a bounce and now it's coming down. This could be a big head and shoulders pattern. If this is right, this could be coming back down to 3.5. And if that's the case, real estate is going to boom in America, because this is what, well, not 2 year yields, but 10-year yields is usually what is used for mortgages and for long-term loans. So if this comes down, starts to go lower, it will really help the real estate market. People who've made a lot of money flipping real estate, what do? They buy other risky assets. What are those risky assets? It's altcoins and Bitcoin. So they'll be moving into that. So everything kind of feeds into each other. And obviously you've spoken about the 4 year cycle. There is a 4 year cycle in Bitcoin, and we're in the up cycle. So there should be more to come. As far as Bitcoin is concerned, we are in a big consolidation here. But we've maintained a bullish view throughout, even from all the lows down here, we're still part of the trend. It's all part of the trend. There may be a bigger consolidation coming, or we've had quite a consolidation around 100,000. Even if there's a correction that comes as far as 86,000, breaks this high, it's still in an upward trend. So for the moment, it is a bit of a tricky call, because I think it probably wants to go sideways. But longer term, I think the risk is still to the upside. It doesn't look like this is over. It doesn't feel like this is over from a sentiment point of view. And I think that's really important. Sentiment being this negative or this cautious when the market is this high tells you that that there is more upside. I would feel, from a contrarian point of view, I would feel very worried if everybody was talking about 200,000 and more in terms of their targets. So they're not doing that. I've not heard it anyway, and it seems to be quite quiet out there. So apart from the noise around Trump's inauguration, which I think is a bit of a blip, things will calm down. Anything that makes this market go sideways for a bit will be a perfectly fine consolidation before it goes higher. Now, I still like ETH. I still like the pattern in ETH. I think this is going to repeat, as some people call it, an inverse or a head and shoulders continuation pattern. I don't really like that as a name for the pattern, but I can see what they're saying. We've got this left shoulder, this head, and this potential right shoulder. So it should dig in. It kind of mirrors itself. So if we take that as the center, what's happened here is happening here. So it's went down, then it went up. So this has gone down and it should start to go up. So any movement through this 3323 will then put us in this phase. And then we're targeting 4,030, which is a huge resistance point, and that takes us to the all-time high. So those are the kind of steps, tripwires that I'm looking for. If and when they happen, I think it will look really bullish. So overall, the market is in a consolidation. Of course, there's a lot of altcoins that have come off, and I think that part of that was the Trump pump and dump. But I don't think it doesn't look like, from a macro point of view, that it's over.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And you brought out some good points about it, how if everyone is bullish, that's something that should worry you. But the fact that there's all this caution and you hear people making predictions that Bitcoin's going to go down to 92,000, 85,000, that is always the case. When you're not at the top. When you're at the top, almost everyone is calling for it to continue up for forever, or like much, much higher numbers. And so it throws a lot of people off. I remember when Bitcoin bottomed at 14,000, very few people were saying that this was the bottom, and a bunch of people were calling for $12,000 Bitcoin, $8,000 Bitcoin, even a whole bunch of people with really loud voices calling for $2,000 to $4,000 Bitcoin, and it never reached there. So you're almost like contrarian to what the market is. And a lot of the family has been here. Johnny makes a good point. It's so boring so far, when the excitement we deserve, when I think he's asking, when is the excitement we deserve after years of patience? And the market does exhaust you. I wasn't kidding when I said the bear markets will wear you out, and they're much rougher than you realize. And even though we're in the early bull market, a lot of the smaller cap altcoins, they haven't popped. They finally popped during that parabolic phase of the bull run, and that hasn't happened yet. In fact, some of your positions may even be down, and some of my positions, a bunch of my positions are down, and a few of them are up. And so overall, I'm ahead by some, but a bunch of my positions are still down, and that's just part of it. Like, that's not a bad place to be. It was that way for me in my biggest gainers last bull market at this time. And that's part of what washes a lot of people out, especially when they're in the riskier ones that can do 100x, is sometimes other things run up first. Bitcoin going up and hitting 100,000 seems like, why am I sitting in these higher risk altcoins when Bitcoin went to 100,000? If you think about the actual gains from the very bottom, that's a 6x up. And it seems like so much, because it's fun to be where the excitement already is and has been happening. And it doesn't feel fun to be where the excitement isn't yet. And so literally, when I say I buy when it's boring, I often am buying when the price action is boring. And sometimes it stays boring for a while. By boring, that doesn't mean it's not doing anything. Sometimes it's even going down further. So that's maybe what our first commenter was saying, is that some things are down because almost nothing I've talked about has gone to zero. So Jorge, I don't know what you're talking about. There has been a few failures. And a lot of what I invest in is higher risk coins, like Meld recently closed their doors, and their token didn't actually go to zero, but pretty much it should have, because it's pretty much worthless at this point, because they made some strategic errors. Very good project, good team. They spent a lot of their capital during the bear market trying to get some momentum, trying to get noticed during the bear market, instead of conserving it and waiting to a bigger bull market. I mean, it was a great strategic business study that we can now study and see, why did a good business with good employees and a good tech, why did they fail during the bear market? But it doesn't help when you have a bunch invested in them. It kind of sucks. But realize in this game, we're playing probabilities. And I've shared with everyone openly, my failure rate during the bear market of 2018 through 2020 was a 65% failure rate. That 65% of them essentially failed, and only 35% succeeded. But the 35% that succeeded took my portfolio to 100x from the bottom, even though it's only 1/3 of my portfolio that survived. But I did learn a lot of lessons there that have helped me during this bear market make a lot better buys this bear market than I did last one. And so far, only a few have failed. Meld failed and SoulBank failed, but that was way back in late 2021. And a few other ones actually failed and went to zero, but almost nothing has. A lot of things are just still somewhat down. Like one of my favorites of this price is OMI, and the price is down. And I think it's going to have a remarkable recovery. In fact, we'll be covering that one in a little bit. So the market isn't dead. Like sometimes when the general market is just trading sideways and almost nothing is happening, there are a few that are taking off, and we're going to look at 2 of those that have had some excitement. These aren't ones that I'm particularly invested in or interested in, but they have had some price action. So let's take a look at them. The first one being Jupiter.
Okay. Oh, hang on. Yeah, it's this one, isn't it? So Jupiter, this is March 24 or thereabouts, February, January. Okay, so January. So we've got about a year's worth of price action on this particular chart. And it's had what this doesn't show you is how big this move is in a percentage term. It's absolutely massive. But the problem here is, what is the headway that it's making within the trend? The trend has been sideways for a very long time, or there is no trend. So we've just got this big range. Now, that doesn't mean it won't break out, which it obviously is looking to do with this really sharp move. But it just hasn't done it yet. It's had some decent moves up, and those have been sold into. So it's pretty much range bound. The only thing I would say that kind of identifies something different on this particular chart is that this powerful green candle here, or green bar, is, in Japanese candlestick charting, we call it an engulfing pattern, and it's engulfed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 prior bars. And when that happens, you normally get a follow through move to the upside. So you'd wait for confirmation, but it's moved quite a lot already. So from a Japanese candlestick perspective, taking a 50% of that range and putting a kind of stop below the 50% area as a protection, a trader could look at that and say that there's an opportunity. And I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. I would just say it's got to do a bit more work to actually break out from this big range. And I'd find it more interesting if it can show something that changes the dynamics of this longer term pattern. And that would have to be on this move over $1.13. Now you might say, why would I wait so long when I could buy it here? And that's a good question. And the answer would be, because if I'm buying a breakout here, it's because I'm looking for a move to 2 or maybe even 3. But at this stage, I'm unsure whether it's going to just stay in this kind of holding pattern before it breaks higher. So I can see an argument for a short-term buy. I think this is one that we need to come back to and see if and when it is pressing these levels. But it is definitely, I can see why you'd want to look at it, and it is definitely interesting. It's definitely woken up from something, and short-term buyers, I would say, will pretty much be jumping on this because of this change in dynamics, and it is justified. But I'm just not sure about the longer term, and I try to think about the longer term when we're talking on this channel, because I don't really know when we're going to come back to it again. So for the moment, I'm going to say, if you can understand the split, I'm going to say it's a short-term buy, but a longer-term wait. So you can kind of put that, for me, down however you however you want. But that's what I would say.
Short-term buy, but a longer-term wait. Got
Yeah.
it. All right. So let's take a look at some of the factors that I look at with it. First of all, its market cap is 1.8 billion. So it's solidly in the blue chip category. In fact, it's number 72 on CoinGecko. As far as placement overall, like on in the number, like the highest 72nd highest market cap in the crypto space. Now, Jupiter is an interesting one. It's a DEX on Solana, and it gets a lot of usage. And it really launched and got a lot of traction. I remember some major crypto channels covering it here and how they were just dollar cost averaging like crazy at $1.50 and $1.60. And to me, that was like a major warning flag. And I was like, well, shoot, it would have been nice to hear about Jupiter in the early days, but I didn't hear about it in the early days. And now that everybody's talking about it, is never a time to buy when all your major channels are covering it. And sure enough, since then, it's just gone sideways. Now, most of the market has gone sideways too. So it's not like it's done terrible. But it's probably benefiting from a lot of trading going on Solana again. So Trump and Melania coin trading. Well, I know Trump coin trading on Solana. I think Melania coin as well. And they're probably using Jupiter. So it's top of mind. And so it's getting some more traction and action. And it's gone up a little bit in the last week. It bottomed out at like 75 cents and has gone up to recently was $1.12. So it went up about a 35% bit in this run. And it looks like it's been going up and down like that for a bit. So Jupiter with some action on it, not highly interesting to me. I do think Solana is getting a lot of traction as a chain, and Jupiter will probably do well during the bull run. Probably a 10x from here, maybe more. I'm looking for things that have better and higher potential for gains than that. But some people, blue chips is where they want to be. And a 10x gain for them is extremely exciting. And so maybe this is a good one for them. Overall, I do like this chart pattern. I would much rather, though, buy it around 75 cents to 80 cents than currently at $1.07. And if this trend just continues a little bit longer, you'll get some more bites at the apple. So with that, if I were a blue chip holder, I'd be interested in this at 80 cents, but not at $1.07. And if it doesn't go back to 80 cents, then that's okay. There's lots of other great options out there. I think Jupiter as a crypto project has done a good job delivering an exchange, a decentralized exchange that a lot of people like to use for trading on Solana. Let's take a look at another one that has gone crazy, the price action in just the last few days. It wasn't on my radar at all, but the price action was interesting. So let's take a look at what's happening there.
Yeah, this is one where I think the horse has bolted. And from a technical point of view, I'd like to have seen or I would like to have been watching it because there were signs that it was going to break out. Now, if we just look at the history, we've got this downward trend, then we got a rally, higher low, then a central rally here. And this is the kind of halfway point of this base. So we've got one base, two bases, and you see how it's curving up. And then it broke this 450 level, which it broke it in style. So it went right into it in a strong, and this is the sort of breakout I look for. So what I'm trying to find is something that's got a good risk against reward. And if this was the breakout point or the buy point, for me to enter here, I'd have to buy here and put a stop all the way down there, which is quite a big risk against reward trade. It'd have to go a long way. Now, that doesn't mean it won't go higher, but it's just, I don't know how speculative this is. I don't know very much about it at all. It's got some history, which is good. So we're going back to 22. It's got a bit of history. And this acceleration is certainly exciting or, interesting from a chart point of view. And it may not be over yet, but I need to find a logical entry point. Now, what I could say is this area here, and we've looked at some of these, is a really nice, what we call a continuation pattern. And that could form the basis of a stop point So if I say 1106 is my stop and I'm buying it here, that gives me a parachute out if I'm wrong. I wouldn't like to lose that amount on the trade, but it's still, I've got to put it somewhere. And if the trend is going to go up and keep going up, I want to be part of it. So again, this is one where the longer term outlook is more speculative. I don't really know very much about this or why this is going higher, but it certainly is. So technicals is going with the trend, and so I have to buy it. So my short term strategy would be to buy it. I'd have to put a stop below here as a parachute level out. Even if that gets triggered, that doesn't necessarily mean that the move is over. It's just come back further than I would have liked for a continuation of this chart. It does need to consolidate. Nothing's going to keep going up in a straight line, especially at this phase when everything else isn't going up like this. If everything was going up, then fair enough. I'd be going, right, we're going to go for highs, but not everything is moving. It's a bit more of a fragmented market in the short term, but it's still a bullish market, and it's nice to see things like this. But the risk reward trade was down here, and that's if I bought it on that point, I would be running it. I wouldn't be selling it. So that again tells me that for the moment, I'd want to go with that trend and see how it plays out. So yeah, so an interesting one, definitely one we should come back to. I'm looking forward to hearing what they do.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So I don't really know what they do. I wish this was a little bit more clear. So one of the first things I do is I go to CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko and I take a look at their price action. I look at their market cap. So it's at $1 billion market cap. It looks like the fully diluted valuation is 1.69 billion, which means about 2/3 of their tokens are in circulation. Okay, it's listed on Coinbase Exchange, Kraken, so it's easily gettable in the US, KuCoin, MEXC, Gate.io, so easily gettable outside the US too. History is this one's been around for a while, and some of these ones with these simple names like XCN, like when their ticker symbol is very different than the name of their thing, especially when they throw an X in there, it's kind of hard to remember because there's like XYN and XCN and X, like all these. It's not very not very memorable as a name. I think that's kind of a mistake on their part, naming it Onyxcoin, but then having XCN. I guess XCN is in their name, but when you say XCN, it doesn't lend itself to the name. Like Ecomi has OMI in the token, and there's a better frame of reference there. So some news seems to have come out, some really big news, because if you look at this is a solid 10x. And I like to see this. I often make the analogy of as the bull market is heating up, it's like buttery popcorn in that microwavable bag that you put in the microwave, that it doesn't start popping right away. In fact, for a while, it seems like it's doing nothing at all. And what is actually happening on the inside is the temperature is heating tremendously. And but on the outside, you can't really see anything happening until you have a few kernels pop. And this is actually an example of a kernel absolutely popping. So if you look at what it's done, this is absolutely tremendous. It's gone from 0.27 cents to 3.6 cents in a matter of weeks. So it's gone over 10x in 2 weeks. That's exciting. That tells you the popcorn is starting to pop. And we are not seeing a lot of these right now. We're seeing very few of these, but this is one of the first kernels to pop. And I do think, even though the market's been trading sideways for the last little while, I think it's like the temperature heating up, because there's a lot of fundamentals underlying that are leading to an explosion in the crypto market, is my opinion. And that's how I have my investments set up. So I'm excited to see more things exploding like this. This one isn't particularly one I'm in. Their website is somewhat vague. Like, it's the backbone of decentralized Web3 protocols. Okay, what do you mean by that? Well, we have XCN staking, learn more. Onyxcoin is the decentralized governance and utility token of Onyx. XCN holders can stake, vote, and pay for services on Onyx and chain.com. Okay, so still I don't know what they do, but okay, we see a lot of that in the crypto space. Like, doesn't mean they're not a legitimate project. I just wish they were more clear on like really what it is, the backbone of decentralized Web3 protocols. Like, I don't know, are they a layer one? What are they? It's not clear. Their Twitter isn't all that much clear either. They don't have a pin thing really explaining what they do. Their pin comment, as a reminder, Onyxcoin token contract will always remain on Ethereum as well as XCN staking and XCN governance. Be aware of imposters seeking to scam the community. And you go through there, and there's not really hard to tell what's going on. What news came out that was so big? I'm not seeing it on their Twitter. Like, I'm just left with question marks here. So I don't know why they took off, what big event came out, but there's not a lot of answers there. So overall, with the chart, I don't buy at this price. I figure, well, shoot, I missed it. That doesn't mean there isn't more run. There probably is. Its previous high was up to almost 20 cents. It was 17 cents, and it's not 5x away from that. And so if they are doing something substantive and their technology does push things forward, then this bull run, they'll possibly match or exceed their previous bull run price. But I don't want to, I think about opportunity cost. So there's a lot of things I really, really like that are much, much cheaper that haven't popped off yet. And this one already realized 10x of its gains. In fact, over 10x. In this case, you could have bought it at 0.2 cents. And now it's at 0.36. So it's got like an 18x gain. So if it does another 5x, that's an overall 90x gain. Buying at this price, you possibly have 5x of that run left. So this is just one where I don't chase the boats that I missed, because I'm more of a long-term holder. I wait for this 4-year time frame is so golden that once every 4 years, most of the crypto market goes absolutely nuts. And so I like to try to extract as much out of that 4-year run that happens mostly at the end as I can, and we're getting up to that point. All right, let's look at DevvE. Let's see what's going on with DevvE.
Yeah, so DevvE, just to wind back, this was the basing pattern down here when we started looking at the potential for this to go up, and the breakout point was at 48 cents, and then we got a very clear pattern that accelerated that move up. We talked about maybe a move back down to retest that point, and it didn't quite get there, but it did sell off quite aggressively. There was some form of announcement, or I think somebody in the comments was talking about some announcement, buy the room, sell the fact kind of trade here. So the question is, where next? Volume has gone down and it's in a consolidation. I think it will probably consolidate a bit longer. So would I be buying it here? Probably not. But from a trade from here, I would be staying with it. So from this breakout point, I would just stay with it. So it feels like a wait to me for this at this point, and mainly because there's not too much history. We had a lot of action around here, which is interesting as to why it's trading in the same way around here. You know, buying that happened here and people that lost on the coin, as soon as it comes back up, they'll want to sell again. So we've got the first wave of that. And it may be that it's just got to chew through this supply until we can get into new highs. So given that it's done well in this phase, it should really do well with everything else going forwards from a macro point of view. But that doesn't guarantee it will. It should do. It's performing well from a technical point of view. But again, this comes down to where the buy points come in and how much risk what your outlook is and for your time frame. For me, the buy point was here. Would I be selling? No. The volatility that we're seeing around here is to be expected. What would be exciting, or exciting is not the right word, what would confirm the next phase would be it getting through highs. New highs are always an important point in technicals, and I just want to see how it will deal with this local high against this longer term print. And it will obviously be a bit of work to chop through that wood, as it's often said, but I think it will do it. So for the moment, it's going to be a wait, but a wait from a holding position rather than a wait in terms of waiting to get in. And I see at the moment no reason why it shouldn't break higher, but I think it will have to consolidate a bit, which is no bad thing. We don't want things to go up too far too fast because they become overbought and too toppy and speculative. We want it to move up nice and slowly without news. So perhaps we'll get an update on this news when things go quiet, consolidates for a month or two, and then breaks up again. That would be a nice scenario. So I'm sure we're going to be looking at it again, if not next week, in the next couple of weeks. So we'll be able to update on what's going on there.
Yes. DevvE, I'm a big fan of. As the regular audience knows, done multiple interviews with Tom from DevvE, recently did an interview with their new spokesperson, Austin from DevvE, who articulates why DevvE is special very, very well. He's exceptional, and he's got a deep crypto background. So his explanation of why he believes in DevvE and why he went all in on DevvE helps people understand what is the big deal about DevvE, what is special about it. Now, if you remember from the channel, and you've been a long time viewer, you know that I was covering DevvE when it was going down to these prices, and that I was saying that it was massively undervalued. I didn't know where the bottom would be, that anything under these prices was incredible. It was a gift. And what goes down doesn't go down for forever when there's something solid and substantive behind it. And one of the reasons I gave for why the price kept going down was token vesting pressure. The tokens were vesting to the pre-sale investors, who many of them were up even at these prices. And even if they weren't up on the tokens they were receiving, they made so much profit selling their early tokens here that they considered any money they got out of the later tokens was still they were still in profit. So they were just dumping their tokens, as frequently happens with early pre-sale investors. And it drove the prices all the way down to this amazing point of 12 cents. Now we're talking about $1.40. So this is another example of one that's up 10x from where things were. In fact, a little over 10x. It went recently all the way to $1.80. So that's a 15x up since mid-September 2024. So it's been like a 6-month time period that it's had those kind of gains. And so this isn't like popcorn exploding and going off. This is more like a slow rise. And a lot of what happened is the pre-sale vesting pressure ended here, but there were some run-ups here. I'm not sure exactly what caused them, but even when there's some downward price pressure, a little bit of upward pressure can take that over. And when the pre-sale token vesting completely ended, since then, there hasn't been that downward pressure. And you're seeing more buy pressure than there has been sell pressure, because the sell pressure is minimal. And it's been running up to some really big numbers, and its market cap is still really low. Keep in mind, this is a layer 1 blockchain, and its market cap is 124 million. It's a layer 1 blockchain that can do 8 million transactions per second. On top of their own blockchain, they're talking about a new way of exchanges, or decentralized exchanges, being able to have instantaneous finality, or T0 finality, which is what centralized exchanges have been trying to go to for forever, and they haven't figured out a way to do it. Even some centralized exchanges have spent millions of dollars trying to figure out how to put their exchange on the blockchain, and haven't been able to figure out that part of it either. One of the things they didn't have was a blockchain that could do 8 million transactions per second, and scalable up from there if they just add more shards. So DevvE has some really good solutions, and we'll see. They've been teasing a big announcement with one of the biggest names in centralized exchanges out there, and not centralized crypto exchanges, but centralized stock exchanges. So we'll see what that announcement is and how bullish that announcement is. Sometimes it's a buy the rumor, sell the fact, which means when the actual announcement comes out, if everyone's expecting what that announcement could be, the price run up is already realized by that point. So unless the announcement is actually bigger than what people anticipate it will be, oftentimes that creates a little bit of a cool off. But do keep in mind we were just looking at other things with market caps in the billions of dollars, and this is still like 10x away from being over $1 billion market cap. Like 10x from here would put it at $1.24 billion market cap. So it's got plenty of potential to go up. I think this has potential to be in the tens of billions of dollars. So it's got tremendous potential still. They've done a good job getting a community. I see in the comments section, whenever we cover DevvE, a lot of the DevvE community jumping in. And there's a lot of people coming around to what DevvE is and doing deeper research and realizing that most of the crypto market doesn't yet know about this chain that can do these kinds of speeds. And if the greater crypto market did know about DevvE and the kind of speeds it can do and what it was doing, probably the price would be a hell of a lot higher than this. And if there's that kind of substance, which I have always felt they've had, then eventually the rest of the market will come around to it. As it gets more coverage, price pumps more, and then more coverage, price pumps more. And then at a certain point, it realizes the whole market knows about what it's doing, and that's reflected in the price. So CK says this. Now, Bro was saying about XCN, Onyxcoin. I think it's supposed to be an XRP competitor from a large fiat institution, JP Morgan, I believe. Interesting. I did hear that they had a coin, and maybe it was Onyx, and maybe that makes sense. XCN spiked when the Economic Ninja promoted. He has 500K followers. You can pump a coin when you have that kind of following. It really takes 300,000 followers and more. And you see, like, a lot of times when really, really big channels cover something and go in depth in it, it will pump a coin. 10x would be a large pump for like one channel like that to do it. But sometimes what happens is one channel covers it, it starts a run, and then a bunch of other channels jump behind it because they cover what is going up, and it pumps even further. Okay, when DevvE announcement? Good question. I don't know. Probably not soon. Let's see. We have Omi to look at. We have a few suggestions to look at. Why don't we take a pause? And Iris was asking, Paul, can you give us a DEFINI update? Without going into any price action, Paul will never talk about DEFINI's price action or DEFINI's token price, but he can tell you how he feels about DEFINI as a company. How are you feeling about DEFINI as a company?
Well, Manu's one of the best CEOs I think you're ever going to find. I go back a long way with him, and I trust him implicitly. I know that he's extremely skilled in lots of different areas, and what he's built so far is absolutely amazing. It just makes me laugh that there's so many of these ridiculous coins that just go flying, and there's other really amazing projects that are just sitting there with teams of really skilled people that are going sideways. But that doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me really, because I if you trust people, you let them get on and with the direction that they're getting on with, and everything he's done, I think so far has just been absolutely amazing. So I believe there's more to come. There's an AMA on the 31st, and I think you can join that and ask questions there. But so far I think he's he's just an amazing CEO, and I don't even bother really following much about what's going on, just on a very kind of superficial level, because I just trust him to do what he's going to do. I mean, either you trust people or you don't, and it's sort of, I'll give you an example. There's in the guitar world, there was a builder who would go to people like Eric Clapton, or people like Eric Clapton would come to him, and he would build them an amp. And he would say, look, I want to build you an amp that you want, and this will be an amazing amp. Now, this guy's dead now, and his amps go for $100,000. But he was so good at what he did that it didn't matter who asked for something, he would do a fantastic job, and he became a legend. Now, if you phoned him up and said, what's happening with my amp, you'd go to the bottom of the queue, because he's working. And the point is that people want everything tomorrow. If you're going to build a proper business, it takes time. And it takes time to get through regulation. It takes time to deal with all the things that are involved with running a company. And so there's so many things that are happening that are unique, that are, ahead of its time. Sometimes the market just takes a bit of time to catch up. But I'm just sort of letting him guide the ship, and I trust him. And I'm not sort of tapping on his shoulder every 5 minutes saying what's going on, because I just trust him. And if I didn't trust him, I wouldn't be part of the company. I wouldn't be, I wouldn't entertain being there. So that's how I see it. Now, I see obviously other people might have a different view, and you've just got to take your own view about anything you do, and everything, again, on a general point of view. Any trades or any things that people take is their own responsibility. And it's very much a kind of private investor, amateur trader that says, you've got to tell me what I've got to make money on. And if I make money, then it's my skill. And if I lose, it's your fault. That's classic. That happens all the time. If you take a trade, it's your fault. It's your problem. It's your risk, your money. You're doing it. You take responsibility. And if I take it, I don't go running to anybody and saying, oh, I'm really sorry that, and I know that that's not a definitive thing. This is just a general thing that you see all the time, So, and it's actually a very interesting thing that we're seeing more snippy comments right now, because it tells you where we are in the cycle. People are getting sort of maybe a little emotional because they're seeing so many things go crazy, and they want their things to go crazy. If you want excitement, take up skydiving. The markets are not here for excitement. They are here to make money in a calm, rational way that you decide with your own parameters. If you want excitement, there's plenty of ways to get it, but trying to get it out of the markets is a very bad way to do it, because that adrenaline that you feel will make you make bad decisions. The markets are all about psychology. So I'm kind of tying two answers into one. I just have trust in what Manu and the team are doing, and I just get on with trying to call the markets as best I can. That's my job. I want to get the markets right. I want to be on the right side of the macro picture. I'm looking for signs that the markets are over and what confirms my view. I try not to be too wrong, and I try to have risk and reward analysis on everything that I do. That's my job. His job is to create the best company that he can possibly create, and I think he's done an amazing job, and I think he will do more. So my background, from what I know from Manu, he knows so much about gaming. He knows a lot about company M&A, options trading. He has a very strong financial background, but within the people that we worked with, because I worked at the same company as he did, he really stood out as somebody who was proactive and, more exceptional than the people around. He would talk to me as an analyst, whereas some of the other people in the room wouldn't. They wouldn't ask opinions, but he was always looking for who's got the information that I need in order to either do a trade or give information to a customer or things like that. So he's extremely proactive, but he knows a lot about how to structure companies. And if there's a barrier in the way, he'll find a way around it, because that's the sort of guy he is. But I also know that he's a very decent guy as well, and he treats people extremely fairly, possibly, more fairly than I might want to, but that's a really good trait. So, again, as a human being, he's a great person. So I as far as I'm concerned, I just let him get on with what he's doing. and I back him 100%.
A lot of people come into crypto and they don't realize what this is. It's really just early stage business investing. And they do actually, like, the adrenaline can be super addicting. And when other things are running and what you're holding isn't, it often causes people to make the worst moves. And this is particularly the time in the market where you see a lot of that, where a lot of what you're holding, it feels like nothing in your bags is pumping and everything else is pumping it. And the reason is because you're looking at the 10% of things that are going crazy. You're looking at the, you might be holding, 10 different projects out of the 50,000 that are out there. And it feels like everything's running but what's in your bags. And that's not actually true. It just feels like that. And so what that causes a lot of times is people to chase. They sell what's low to buy what's already higher, and they chase gains. And every once in a while, it works out okay for you. Usually it doesn't. And I know this because I tried a little bit of that in 2017. And I knew better from my investing background prior, but I just couldn't help myself. I had to do some of it too. I had to touch the hot stove to find out, on average, I think 1 in 5 times it worked out for me. The other 4 times, what I sold finally ended up pumping. And this other thing had already realized a bunch of its gains. And so the gains I hoped to get from the new thing I rolled into weren't substantive. And sometimes it pulled back on me. Whereas the thing I sold out of went like 10x overnight. Finally, might have been a week or 2 later, might have been a few months later. And I was like, oh, I sold what was boring to roll into what was hot. And then what was boring finally became hot. And I missed all those gains. So I sold what was low to buy what was high. And of course that didn't work out. But I wasn't thinking of it that way till later that I realized I sold what was low to buy what was high. Why am I surprised it didn't work out for me? And so now you see a lot of that, right? Like even in this comment, and Jem, if you're in for a long-term perspective, my type of approach isn't for everyone. It's not meant to be for everyone. It's meant to be for those that are looking to maximize their gains in a cycle. Bitcoin only, and you would be way up. True. If you had bought it at the bottom, you would be way up. Even if you had bought it halfway from here, you would be way up. Not sure I believe you being up, knowing Omia is way down. Okay, well, you don't know me. That's cool. Just because one of my positions is down does not mean my portfolio is down. Just be a boring Bitcoin maxi and spending time on making more fiat. It's the best success recipe. It is not the best success recipe. It's not even close to the best success recipe, but it is a success recipe for sure. Because look, one of the challenges with people in the crypto space is they get too active, trying too hard to make too many trades. And that causes them to chase adrenaline. And they're trying to sell what's nothing's happening into things that are happening. And that's a bad idea. So should anyone sell their positions now to be in Bitcoin to chase what Jem is talking here, it's going to go poorly for you. Bitcoin's realized a bunch of its gains. If you're lucky, it goes to 160,000, or if you're really lucky, it goes to 500,000, which means it's 5x up from here. And likely, if you're in a substantive altcoin position that hasn't run yet, it can do a 5x from here in a matter of 2 days when the market starts popping off. And it can do a 50x over a period of 2 weeks. And so did you make a better move? No, you made a disastrous move as far as opportunity cost goes. But it's tempting to make those kind of moves now. Now, long-term, for somebody that has a lot of money, that's a beautiful strategy, right? So if you have you're very comfortable and you have $10 million and you want to take a low-risk strategy, buy a bunch of Bitcoin. And in 10 years from now, that Bitcoin will probably be worth 10x, 15x, 20x, 30x from here, which is incredible over the next 10 years. And if you start with a substantive amount of money, if you put 10 million in, that's a really substantive number. But if you're trying to get ahead, like I was actually, when I started in crypto, I was still in debt from a prior divorce. I dug out of a bunch of that debt, but I still had about 70,000 in debt, and my net worth was negative still when I started investing in crypto. But I was making okay income, and I was rolling in that income into crypto. And of course, I came in 2017 where I learned some very valuable lessons during that bull run. But I stuck around during the bear market and I invested during that bear market. And I saw how things played out in 2021 and that patience was key. And a lot of the stuff that overperformed, or the 35% of my portfolio that survived from the bottom, took my overall portfolio 100x from the bottom, which is incredible. So then I looked at what are the commonalities of what really, really overperformed in that. And so this whole bear market, I've been focused on investing in those. And a lot of those haven't popped yet. Just like in 2021, a lot of them didn't pop till later in it. But when they did, the gains were tremendous. So this type of approach isn't for everyone. One of the hard parts is that you get shaken out. You might be in really solid projects, but because they're not moving yet, you then ditch the whole plan to roll into where you feel the action is, much like I did in 2017, and you learn that lesson for yourself. Cool. You fully get to make all your own decisions. In fact, on this channel, I don't give advice like we saw in that first comment. Said all coins I advise us to buy last season went to zero. That's not even close to true. Secondly, I don't advise people to buy coins. I tell you what I like and why I like it. I make the case as to why I like it, to give you information on what I like about it, what's the substance behind why I like it. Then I'm hoping you're doing your own research and buying what it is, because one of the things I don't do is a channel where I just tell you what to buy and I tell you what to sell. Because like Paul said, then you'll have a bunch of people that are like, when it goes well for them, they'll take all the credit. And when it goes bad, they'll like assign all the blame. But number two, what did you learn? Do you think I'm going to do this YouTube channel for forever? I don't do this YouTube channel because the money the YouTube channel makes me. I do this because together we're able to get much better information from projects. So I love DEFINITY, and through this channel, I was able to meet Paul, and Paul joins us on Wednesdays to share his view on price trading. He's got 30 years background in this. The reason I knew I had to, as an investor, create a YouTube channel was because I didn't have access to talking teams. I didn't have access to reach somebody like Manu to ask him deeper questions. What's going on with your project? What are your plans? What's happening? What's this? And so I had to make much less informed decisions back in 2020 and before than I do now. And part of the agreement I made to my audience is, look, YouTube, if I can get just enough following that we can get big enough that we can have interviews with a lot of these projects that I'm interested in, it'll be a win for you and a win for me. I'm not going to do what it takes to get a really big YouTube channel. And what it takes to get a really big YouTube channel is cover things that have been pumping like crazy and saying, oh, this is amazing, and it could pump 100x from here. You'll get a lot of viewers and you'll get a lot of additional subscribers. I just don't like that model because it wrecks the audience. What I'm trying to do is help many of you think like savage crypto investors. And Paul joining us, giving a totally different take. As you see, a lot of times we have very different buy points. We have very different rules. Goes to the greater goal of helping you learn to think like an investor and choosing which types of rules you're going to implement and follow yourself. All right, Booja, thank you for the super chat. DevvE is a game changer. If you haven't seen the recent interview I did with Austin from DevvE about 3 weeks back, I'd recommend you seeing it. And he also did a great interview. I really liked it with Danny DeBull on DevvE as well. And I saw a notice that they have a live stream. It might even be happening now, talking more about their Dev exchange. So check out what's happening with DevvE if you haven't. Don't just like it because I like it. Find out what it is for yourself and see if you like it. Roman Z says Paul is 100% right. Pink Panther asked us to look at ICP, and we've got BLENDR. Let me put stars by there. Save us.
I'll just say a quick comment to Jem.
Yeah.
I think what he's highlighting, or she maybe highlighting, because we don't know, is that you've got to do what's right for you. Everybody does different things. Everyone has a different strategy. I know lots of people who are the same. They just want to buy Bitcoin and leave everything to one side. that's okay for, if that's okay for your strategy, that's great. So there's lots of different ways, and nobody is saying that you have to do it this way. But in a bull market, there are potentially some very big opportunities in the more risky stuff. More risky stuff means that there's more things that have got the chance to go to zero as well. So if you don't want that risk, that makes perfect sense. Don't play in it, and stick with something that you think is going to be more established. Now, that at some stage may become wrong. Maybe the market can flip and Bitcoin becomes more risky and everything else becomes less risky. We don't know, but it's right as of this time of speaking that that's the case, and there's lots of people who will just ignore everything else, and that's completely fine. And I think everybody who's watching this channel has got to have their own method of approaching the markets, and no two have to be the same. You just have to be comfortable in the way that you do it. And I'm not expecting everyone to be, comfortable with technical analysis, because of course it's not for everybody. It's never going to be always right. You're just looking at probabilities and trying to get it right more often than you get it wrong, or when you get it right, you get it very right, as opposed to get it, knowing when you should get out and you lose a small amount, but when you're right, you make a big amount. That's the idea, and also to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. But I think it's a really important point that for you, Jem, that is the way that you're going to go forward, and there's nothing wrong with that. And everyone should find their own way of approaching the market, because you will get shaken out of a strategy that you don't really believe in.
Yes. Yeah, great point, Paul. All right, let's take a look at OMI, and then we'll jump into some of the viewer suggestions. Let me add up your chart here.
Yeah, sure. So we have got OMI. So last week, I think I was saying that so we had this buy point here on the chart, and it obviously went up a lot, hit this trend line, and then it's just kind of come straight back down again. I think I gave it one more attempt to hold the line, and it may have been last week that it broke it. I think it was. And I've gone to a kind of neutral position here. I can't justify buying this at this point. It's too close to the all-time low. This may well end up being some form of bigger base, but this trend line is still dominating, as we've seen. I know it went over it a little bit, but it's not conclusively broken. It's not closed above it. And for the moment, this might look like a really interesting buy for some people who've got perhaps more risk taking than I would be. I could see why you might want to buy it near this low, but I personally wouldn't do that. And I can't justify it from a technical point of view. I buy into strength. And at the moment, it's been too weak for me to do that. So the phases, if we look at the moving averages, they're still going down. There was a crossover, but I need to see it back into this zone. Really, it's got to break this trend line and this resistance before I can say it's based. Now, it may well do that. And, whoever buys it here might be looking at a much bigger gain that I will then be joining later. And perhaps that's going to happen. I will be the Johnny come lately on the trade. But that's the point of technical analysis. You have to wait for the base to form, and then for the trend to start. And that prevents me from sort of buying something that I don't know very much about and joining a downward trend when I really want to be joining an upward trend. So for me, it's a wait here, but I'm sure we're going to be looking at it quite a lot in the coming few months. And so we can update if it then turns into a buy from a technical point of view.
Yes, sometimes it's really hard to wait and let things play out. I know a lot of people they're very frustrated in the OMI community that hasn't run already, and it's been downtrending as a lot of things. It's continued downtrending since pretty much 3 years ago, and they're just frustrated, right? They're like, when OMI run, and they just get shaken out. They get shaken out at the bottom, literally, or right near the very bottom, and they sell here to roll into something that's already realized a bunch of their gains. And this is one of the downsides of the strategy that I have. Like, it takes a lot of audacity. You have to be able to be in the 5% that doesn't listen to what the 90 or 95% are telling you, because they're so often wrong. And you have to be doing research to look at the fundamentals behind it. Acomi is in the digital collectibles space, and the digital collectibles narrative isn't hitting. And so their token price isn't hitting either. Now I'm going to take off what it did back in 2021. So you can see that since 2021, it's pretty much just gone down. And tons of people see that as a bad thing. And in contrast, in some ways, it is a bad thing from the standpoint of, if you had a magic crystal ball and you could have bought Bitcoin at 14,000, OMI was way up here back then. So if you put in Bitcoin at 14,000, it's now at 100,000. So you could sell that at a 7x gain if you had a magic crystal ball, and you could see how the future would be. And OMI's done nothing but gone down since that. So you could have sold in, had not only 7 times as much OMI that you could have, because it's gone down to about a third the price it was, you'd have 21 times as much OMI if you had a magic crystal ball. And let me ask you, do you have a magic crystal ball? Oh, you don't either. I don't either. One of the decisions I tried to do in the 2021 bull run was I left half of what I had in Bitcoin and half in the altcoins that I was interested in. And I made this decision kind of near the bottom of the market of like 2020. And so I was like, well, my decision was I'm going to try to ride Bitcoin up, and then I'm going to roll that into some alts. And what I realized is that did work with some of the alts, that I was able to capitalize on some gains like this. And I was able to get at a much cheaper price, and Bitcoin had gone up some. And on those ones, it worked out. But some of the ones that ran early massively outpaced what Bitcoin had done. And so I didn't overall gain any traction by doing that. So going into this bull market, I strategically made the decision that I wasn't going to try to do that at all. I was just going to take substantive positions in the ones I really liked. And if the price continued downward, I would just dollar cost average in them, because the substantive positions in the higher risk altcoins are the ones that made me huge amounts of money. And what I found is the part of my portfolio where the companies were anywhere from 1.5 to 5 years old, and that their token price had been punished by token vesting plus the bear market, those were the ones that were the massive gainers in my portfolio that overall gave me the 100x returns from the bottom. And so that's what I focused on this bear market, and what I focused all my pretty much everything in. Now, a lot of those haven't run. A few of them have. DevvE has run up massively. DevvE is one of my largest positions in crypto. So overall, I'm up. A lot of my audience isn't up because they didn't go so heavy in DevvE when it was cheap, and that's okay. Because a lot of this stuff, the popcorn hasn't hit yet. It hasn't started pumping yet. And you can see in this narrative, it hasn't gone yet. Look at, the price action on this, but look at another major player in this narrative called Flow. And guess where Flow's price is? Well, since 2021, it's pretty much averaged going down as well. Now, the bottom was like right here at like 40 or 39 cents, and it's at 62 cents now. But it seems like it's just gone down too. And this is in the digital collectibles narrative. Now, some people worry that like the digital collectibles narrative will never hit again. And that's just not the case. Digital collectibles is going to run this cycle when things go crazy. And what's fun about crypto is that every 4 years since 2013, Bitcoin and crypto have gone absolutely massive. And so it's as predictable of a pattern as you can ever get an investment. It's not perfect. Maybe it doesn't happen this year, but I'd say the odds are really, really high that it will happen this year. And when it does, what happens is money starts to cascade into crypto from all these new entrances coming in, and people can go into super researcher mode. And they start looking for those really undiscovered gems. Right now, they're just kind of chasing some things. But what happens as the market gets a little bit more saturated on the things people have chased into is a whole bunch of people go into deep research mode, and they look for strong fundamentals in projects. And when that happens, your projects like DEFVE get all of a sudden talked about by a whole bunch of big channels. Your projects like OMI and people look at the VV app and all these collectibles with major brands and major licenses go crazy. Flow, people talk about because Flow is the token associated with the blockchain behind NBA Top Shots, NFL All Day, UFC Strike. I think those are major collectibles. I think Flow does incredibly well. And so I think these really pop off, and they just haven't yet. And this is the point that most people get shaken out. There's a reason why just under 90% of people do poorly, like they either don't make any money or they lose money in crypto. There's about almost 6% that do okay. They might make 3, 4, 5, 6x gains. And the remaining 5% make 10x gains and above, some of them being in the 100x gains. Well, what is it that the remaining 5% do? And that's what I asked myself. What in my portfolio had those major gains, and where do I want to focus? So keep in mind, a lot of people disagree with me on this, and that is fine. I just explained the reasons I'm taking these decisions and where I'm going and how it worked out for me last cycle within this framework that I've really went on steroids this cycle, investing heavily in those types of projects with those, like I look for a really strong team, a narrative that I could believe in, token punished by the bear market, that the narrative that they're in is outside of the narrative. And those were the things I look for. And so DeFi hasn't run since March of 2021. Definity is strongly in the DeFi narrative. When DeFi goes crazy again, I think people find Definity. OMI, digital collectibles narrative, hasn't run since 2021, really, March of 2021. It ran a little bit in January 2022, but since then hasn't. But the narrative will shift to them, and then they'll run hard again, and that's what I'm waiting for. All right, let's look at a few of these suggestions. Our first suggestion that came in today was HBAR and Bumper. We're only going to be able to grab one of those, Abe. Let's just grab Bumper because Bumper's price is really low.
Okay. I had a quick look at Hedera, and long term, I think it's bullish. Short term, it looks like it's going to consolidate. So I'll just say that very quickly. Bumper, we looked at that last week, did we? Or maybe 2 weeks ago. It's waiting for to become bullish. For me, it's definitely a wait. Price action's not looking good at all. And I was saying that the buy point for me is when it breaks this resistance point here, because it's stopped 1, 2, 3 times at that point, and we've got these downward trend lines that are pressing it lower. Now, we had this crazy move down, which got rejected, which I think I said at the time was that maybe that's a positive thing that will lead to this break, and then we could start talking about it playing in this area here, which sets up the move for the break of the level that I really want to see it doing. But it's not been able to extend on that, and actually it's come off again even more aggressively. So I don't know what's going on here. I don't like the way it's printing these sharp lows and then recovering again. It could be that there is just some capitulation, which if it rejects it fast and we get again back into this area, it will be a good thing because it means it's had all the selling, it's been cleared out. But it definitely needs to do a lot more work before I can turn bullish on it. So I'm going to remain a bit cautious and say that my breakout levels are still this first tripwise, this sharp downward trend. Next one would be this one. But ultimately, for a proper sustained base, I want to see it break 2.5 cents.
Yeah, Bumper's price action is scary as hell for people to buy in. And if you're just looking at charts and only buying based off charts, you cannot buy that chart. That chart does not scream buy. But I do take a different approach in that I'm looking at the underlying company behind it and who is the team and what does the underlying technology do if it catches traction. And the challenge with that is you don't know for sure if it's going to catch traction. Like Uniswap, one of the biggest decentralized exchanges today, was around for like 2.5 years before it really caught major traction. Almost nobody used it for a solid 1.5 years. And then it started to get some usage when DeFi went crazy, and then everybody started using it. And so just because the charts look terrible, that I buy based on fundamentals. And sometimes companies go out of business. So that's the risky point, that if the price is going down and down and down, it does put pressure on the reserves of a company, and that if they have a bunch of tokens and they're running low on reserves, they can't sell the tokens to raise additional reserves, or the amount of additional reserves they could raise is not meaningful. So realize that sometimes they go out of business. But I show this chart because I remember when I was new to crypto in 2017, and this is a chart for a token that was around back in 2017. And the token back then had been trading like this. The chart looked like this. When I was watching this guy who was a YouTuber, and he was saying how he had invested in Tron back here. So he paid like 7 cents, and he had held it this whole point. And he sold right at this point here at just under 2 cents. He sold at 1.8 cents. Because what was happening in the market then is a ton of what's happening in the market now. So Bitcoin was running, some other things had really popped off, and he was so sick of being where the price action was boring, and he sold at a loss to roll into these things that were already up. And then this happened. And I remember hearing his story, and I was like, why couldn't he have just waited? If he had just waited till even April, it went to 14 cents. So he would have been up. If he had waited till later that year, it went to 33 cents. So he sold at a loss so he could chase into the gains. And I thought, well, who would do that? That's crazy. Well, you know, I made a few trades in 2017 that went just like that too, but only like 2 of them before I learned my lesson. But that story stuck with me a lot, that why is it that people do this? And it's just fear of missing out. And people continue to do this. You know what? 90% of people do this. Can you be the part of the 5% that does the opposite of this? I don't know. Can you? Like, that's a question for yourself, because it does take some nerves and it takes some underlying research. Now, at the time, Tron had a layer 1 blockchain that actually had some good things going for it. I think what happened is the team got absolutely rich, and they really haven't made substantive upgrades to Tron since way back in 2021. Like, I was wrong. Tron topped out at 14 cents. It recently has gone to like 33 cents and 24 cents. I don't know what's driving it, but I do not hold any Tron because I don't feel like they've continued to make substantive improvements. But back then, it was one of the best layer 1 blockchains out there, and they had moved the USDT on it, and there was a lot of actions happening on it in 2017. All right. So on to, shoot, what are we on?
It'd be the ICPs, I think is the next one.
Yeah, let me go to Bumper's price real quick, because Bumper is, this price looks disastrous. And it's like, look, as a company, when I talked to Bumper about how much cash reserves they had, it was about 9 months ago, if I'm remembering correctly. And they said they had 2 years cash reserves. And that is a critical point. That's like, if they were accurate on that and they hadn't spent a bunch of that money, they still should have over a year's reserves to continue operations without having to raise new capital. Because when your price chart looks like this, it is often hard to raise capital when you have no revenues to your business. So Bumper doesn't have meaningful revenues to their business, from what I understand. I'm not aware of them. And number 2, their token price looks like this. And so it's a really hard point for people to raise money. It doesn't mean they can't. It's just more difficult. Secondly, well, their price action looks like this. So a lot of people understand that to make money in investing, they have to buy low and sell high. What they don't realize is when you're buying low, the chart, if you're buying really low, often looks like this. So how do you know the difference between a chart that looks like this and it's just going to go to 0, and a chart that looks like this and it's going to turn around? That has to do with researching the team behind it, what's going on, finding out their cash reserves and stuff, so you can make informed decisions. Because sometimes companies' charts that look like this, they do go to 0, even if they have a good team and they have like a meaningful narrative. If they can't survive until that narrative hits. So is it a risky point to buy bumper? It is. What is the upside potential of it? Its market cap is under $2 million. It's 1.72. The kind of thing that they're doing, if it catches traction, this can go to a $2 billion market cap, maybe even a $20 billion market cap. So that's 1,000 to 10,000x from here if it fully realizes its potential. Realize that if is a big if. We don't know if it will, but if it does, it can do tremendous gains from here. One of my big bets from 2019 was in Axie Infinity. And I thought, well, blockchain gaming is going to be huge. And this is the first blockchain gaming project with land. And if it realizes some of its potential, it could do 100 to 500x from here. And it actually did a 3,000x from there. So I actually I didn't even realize the full potential it could hit. So will bumper hit that? It's a big if. That's where the risk lies. I don't have a magic crystal ball to know. But I like the odds enough that I have huge bags of bumper myself. All right, let's take a look at ICP.
So ICP still playing in this range. $10, $10.4 is this kind of central pivotal level. It trades above, trades below, trades above, trades below, and it is compressing. And usually when something compresses like this, it's getting ready for a breakout. Sorry, I just got a call coming through. When something compresses like this, it's usually getting ready for a breakout, but it's testing the lower support line, which it's on right now. So I'd like to see it bounce from here. Not guaranteed that it will, but I want to see it bounce back up. It's not that it's necessarily going to suddenly break out to the upside. It could just continue to go in this grinding range for a bit longer and then break higher, which is what I think it will do. But I've got to let the market guide me. So I'm interested in this upper line breaking. I think the macro position and the way the chart's looking, from a upward trend from this low, supports that. But I need to see that as confirmation before I can go to the next phase. I look for a change in dynamics that tells me we're going to start running towards this high and then beyond. So the chart looks really good, and I would be keeping a close eye on it because any third attempt to break this line, I think should go. And if it does that, it may start to move really quickly. But as we look at it right here, right now, it's not doing a whole lot. So I would put it on the watch list and come back to it and see how it's performing, i.e. whether it's bounced, which I think it should do, and making a run at this resistance point. So for the moment, it's a wait, but a very interesting wait. And one that we should definitely come back to in the next couple of weeks. If we don't within 2 weeks, I would ask you to remind us about it.
Great suggestion. This is one of the blue chips that's always been on my mind. Like, I don't generally invest in blue chips. When it reached this $3 point, I was like, oh, it was too cheap. And it was just over $1 billion market cap for a big project like this with an amazing team. That was the only point that I would have bought it, even though it was a blue chip. Now, I didn't because I didn't have any liquid money free. But I felt like its potential here for what the risk was a great risk to reward benefit, even being a blue chip. And we've seen, even though it's down right now, it's actually an attractive price for a blue chip. It really is an attractive price. It's still almost 3x up from where this bottom was. And the chart pattern that Paul is showing looks amazing. Like, I think it's going to go here. And I think ICP is a good one. Like, where can ICP go? Its market cap is $4 billion. And this is something that could go to a 20 billion, a 40 billion. It could go maybe even as high as an $80 billion market cap in the bull run. And it was an incredibly high market cap back when it launched here. And every crypto YouTube project was talking about it. And it wasn't whether you had ICP, it was how much ICP you had, which was a sign for me to stay the hell away from it. And sure enough, it got punished. So it falls in that category of the token's been out between 2 to 6 years. Its token got absolutely punished by the bear market plus token investing. See how it did this. And it started to turn around, and it's giving those that like blue chips a second bite at the apple here for not as cheap as what the lows were, but I still think an attractive price. So if I were buying blue chips and I was moving large money into them and I was okay with a 5 or 10 or 20x gain, yeah, I'd buy Internet Computer Protocol even at this price. Am I actually buying it? No, I'm in riskier stuff like OMI. I'm in Bumper. I'm in DevvE. On ones that might do a 50x, might do a 100x, might do much higher than that. All right, so we got a number more suggestions. BLENDR. I haven't heard BLENDR in quite a while. Let's take a look at BLENDR.
Yeah, chart's not looking that good, to be honest, with BLENDR. It's broken out of this consolidation to the downside, which is not a good sign. Printing a new low is a technical bad sign, of course, and we need it to recover at the very least over this 28 to 30 cents area, because that's the breakdown point. Now it's making a run at it, so maybe these are super cheap levels for people that know more about the project and are convinced that it's got a bright future. But from a technical point of view, I can't justify buying it until we see some form of base or strength. It was actually very interesting around here, and I accepted a drop towards this level and a move back up again. But really, it diverged at this point here. It should have gone higher and taken out this resistance. It would have looked like a fantastic chart had it done that. And it just goes to show that nothing's 100% guaranteed. We're still playing probabilities. When it goes down, got to change my view. So it's broken the low, which would be the first, well, broken down, which was the first warning sign, but it's really breaking the absolute low that says this is one that I've got to stand aside on. But there's still time, still a macro bull market, so it may come back. But for the moment, for me, it's a wait.
So I'm having a hard time finding the chart for this. And I was thinking I had heard of BLENDR before, but I'm not finding it on CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko. I am finding it only on like here, and this is not something I buy. Come on. All right. It's frozen on me, so I'm not. There we go. And so here's the price action. BLENDR AI. Like, I don't know what this is. If I can't find it on CoinMarketCap or other things, like I don't buy these decentralized exchange tokens, especially with AI thrown at the back of it. They're not the kind of stuff I risk on. I equate this to going to the gambling casino and putting all your money on like 17 green or something or whatever, 17 on the roulette table. It could work out for you, but definitely not something I'm interested in. If it's even a legitimate project, which I don't know that it is. Maybe it is. Strong chance it isn't. All right. And one of the challenges of going live is like, you never know. Sometimes some of these are like scam projects that scammers are suggesting. We don't always know. Like this other comment, who knows? This might be a legitimate project, may not. LERC, we can take a look at real quickly. But like BLENDR, I don't know that it's a real project. It's definitely not something interesting to me. On what's going on there. If I can't find on CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko, if I don't know about it through other sources that are reliable to me, I don't touch it. Let's see. So LERC, I don't know that again, that's another one of these Solana coins.
Okay. Sorry, I thought we were looking at BLENDR. Why are we looking at LERC?
Oh, it's another suggestion. Okay. This may not be a legitimate one.
Okay.
Like scammers like hit up all my videos and all the comments now, and they figured out how to get onto the live stream too and put something. And that doesn't mean that the CRS content is a scammer. I don't know. I've never seen his name before. And so this is one of those low liquidity Solana exchange ones that could just totally be a pump and dump, could be a scam thing. But it's recently launched, which usually is a scam. And then they have their bots go out there and join live streams like this and then push it. and people think, oh my gosh, it just opened up. You know, it's just going to go up from here. And a lot of times they're just rug pulls. Like there's scams out there.
It's a really important point. We'll never contact you on YouTube, Telegram, anything like that. Just there's going to be a lot of that sort of fraudulent stuff going on. You know, no one's going to message you and say, hey, I've got a really great coin that you should invest in and all that sort of stuff. Just look out for that sort of stuff. It's going to get much worse as we go into the bull market.
Okay, so we got confirmation from Bro, who I know, that BLENDR is BLENDR, and I finally did find that. So that's a lot better. The one that was on the Solana DEX, not interesting at all. This one has some price history.
Okay.
Probably not a rug pull in it, especially if they're not talking about it. This is their website, BLENDR, the blueprint for tomorrow, secure, scalable, access to computing resources via blockchain for research and development. Elevate your AI rendering and simulations with BLENDR. Okay, this is the BLENDR that I had heard of for AI rendering and simulations. So, and this is the chart for that. Is that the same chart?
It's the same chart, yeah.
Okay, good. So, yeah, what you're saying is price is not within our zone that you would touch it.
Yeah.
Because there's no sign that it's bottomed or turning around, which is the point where you then make your entries.
Yeah. I mean, there's short term, it's made a very interesting reversal, but there's still a lot more work to do before this changes its trend. So we could come back to it, definitely, but it's not for me at this point.
For this, I'd be looking, I like where the market cap is. $11 million market cap means there's plenty of upside if this has traction. A lot of its tokens are in circulation. So remember that I like projects that have been out for 2 to 6 years. Now, this coin, according to CoinGecko, has only been tradable for a year now. So I don't exclude if it's only been tradable for a year, but you see the bear market and token investing probably punishing it. And I like to buy things that are punished. So let me find on CoinMarketCap. I'm going to look up BLENDR and see if it gives us some information that I like to find on the token investing. CoinMarketCap is the better of the two, but this doesn't tell us what the token investing is like. So shoot. Often CoinMarketCap will have it. This doesn't. So it does say that the market cap is 11.6 million. The fully diluted value is 12.16. So according to this, most of the tokens are vested. If that's correct, I'd like to see that. That could account for this major push down. Now, there was an AI run up here, right? Everything AI related went crazy. And so then you see the AI narrative coming off, probably some token vesting, pushing the price way down. So this is a really interesting point for further research. I would not buy this without watching interviews with the team, without getting a good feel for what their vision is. Okay, a lot of crypto projects throw the words AI out there or the term AI out there. Oh, we're in AI. What does it mean? Why? What makes their AI project special? There's a ton of scam AI projects that they just came out to raise money to have a token. They're not going to do anything meaningful. They just throw AI in their name. In fact, I see, because I have a YouTube channel, I get invited to a lot of back channel discussions where they literally just pump and dump things. And it makes me sick. And I see them talking about how, yeah, we're throwing together this AI project and going to do a token raise, and we'll give you a bunch of tokens if you pump this for us. And I'm just like, don't you ever watch my videos? Like, I'm not interested in this. I'm not going to dump this shit on my audience. But a lot of Twitter accounts and some of the smaller YouTube channels, even some of the bigger ones, do this kind of stuff. And it savages their credibility and savages their audience. And they just throw together some quote unquote AI projects and hope they take off. But they don't have fundamentally like a strong team to do what it is they even say they're planning to do. So that's why interviews are so critical to me in deciding whether I'm interested in a project. I want to see who the team is, what they're about, what their background is, how they answer questions about their project. And this is a great one. I like where the price is at. This could be possibly a really good buy. but I'd have to look way deeper at that to see if that's interesting. So that's BLENDR, BLENDR. Cool. Good suggestion. Bro says, I don't have great vibes on it. Seems like a generic throwaway AI project, and there are a lot of those. Cool. Oh, well, let's jump into our last suggestion here. I missed CEDAS and Senate. We'll look at this CEDAS token. I only hold Senate, but their prices do about the same. I like their Senate token a little bit more, but their CEDAS token has the same name as the project. They are one of those projects that actually has two tokens, and the tokens do different things.
Yeah, the Senate token comparatively is a little bit weaker. So if I just quickly show you that chart, see it's broken its support here, whereas the CEDAS chart is still slightly above it. So a little bit of outperformance on CEDAS. Both of them are in corrective phases. So I think we need to wait. And that's the big headline. We had this really nice run up and it's not extended. It's come straight back into this breakout point. This area here for me was key at 003.4. I want to see it back over that really. So it's in play with that kind of compression pattern that we were looking at in some of the other markets. Macro wise, the overall market supports this going higher, but it just needs to respond a little bit in the chart. For the moment, it's a wait and just come back again in a few weeks and we'll see where it is. But am I going to miss out if I don't buy it here? I don't know. I don't think so. I think it might go a little bit lower. So I'd be factoring that in, but I want to see how it recovers from here. I think that's for me the most important thing. And if I can show you the tripwire line that I want to see it break as a minimum is this one. So those are the two printed highs. They're lower highs. I'd like to see a higher low here, even though that'd be quite flat even now. And it's not on Senate. It's kind of broken that, so it can't do that. But this is kind of outperformed. So this may lead the other tokens. So we'll look for signs of strength here and confirmation in the other token. So for the moment, it's a wait. Volume is going down, which is not a bad sign because at least it's not being sold into heavy volume. But again, come back to it in a few weeks and we'll see how it looks and if we can update a more bullish chart.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul. CEDAS, now a lot of their tokens, or a lot more of their tokens, are in circulation. So you've seen definitely some price punishment by the bear market and token vesting. And so there's still a lot out there, but over 50% now are in circulation. And you've seen those continue to vest. Let's see. This also doesn't give us a vesting schedule for their tokens. But remember back here, and here's when I was covering CEDAS and Senate, saying it was exceptionally cheap, too cheap, and that I thought that this idea of blockchain gaming would go crazy at some point. I didn't know that like a month and a half later, some really large YouTube channels, starting with one, would cover blockchain gaming as the next revolution. It really kicked off this whole blockchain gaming narrative in the middle of the bear market, so October 2023. And so CEDAS went crazy, going 10x, and then later even extending from there, going 20x from the bottom. Now it's been pulling back, and it's lost 90% of the price that it hit at the top, or not 90%. It's lost, what is that? It's down. It was at 1 penny, so it's lost about 80% from the top. So it's getting to an attractive price again. I'd like to see it more attractive. I do like CEDAS, but one of the challenges is some of those big YouTube channels still talk about CEDAS. And so it has a larger audience than it otherwise have. And I like the team behind it. I like them a lot, and they continue to innovate and to push and to work hard. And they're very focused. I just wish it was cheaper because the blockchain gaming narrative is strongly outside the narrative right now. And that's often when you see these really, really big discounts. Now in their Senate token, because it doesn't carry the same name, and so those YouTubers are not talking about the Senate token, even though in my opinion, of the two tokens, I like Senate better. I definitely like it better when its market cap is almost 1/10 of what the CETUS market cap is, because a lot of people who are buying CETUS, they don't know that there's another token there. So they just buy CETUS because XYZ person on YouTube is talking about it, not realizing that there's a second token and it's 1/10 the price. This is the better buy, and it's at a really attractive price. I covered it here. And even I had some of my Rainmaker in my private Discord ask me what some of my favorite, most undervalued altcoins were. And I listed Senate on there, and Senate's price at the time was 1.7 cents. And so then it absolutely went crazy from there, which who would have known that that would have happened in the short term? The chances were not that it would go up in the short term, though it did. Now it's coming back down, and it's really close to that really cheap price again. It's a very attractive price again. Still really like the team. I check on once in a while, like what's going on with CETUS as a project, and are they doing smart things that they'll be relevant when the blockchain gaming narrative hits? And I think they will be. So I think Senate is massively undervalued. CETUS, I wouldn't buy CETUS. I don't like where the price is. It'd be a wait. It's just not a good enough deal. It's a deal, just not a good enough deal. Senate, I think, is the undervalued one. So Senate, I think, is where the value is. Great questions, Paul. I think that's all our suggestions, and we're definitely out of time. Thanks for doing this.
Very welcome. It's been an emotional one, but it's been a good one, and look forward to the next one. We've got still waiting for the Fed announcement, so there could be a bit of volatility, but it might spark a rally. We'll see. So see you next week. Thanks for all the picks, guys, and thanks for the comments.
All right. Thanks so much, Paul.
Thank you.
So I think about this early bull market phase where a lot of the gains from the bull market haven't been realized. And it reminds me a lot of what was happening around December 2020, January 2021. And it didn't feel very different than this, where it's kind of like some unknown, some anxiety, like political upheavals, like what is going on, and is it bullish? Is it really going to happen? There were signs, substantive signs that yes, the bull run was going to happen, but then there was concerns. There was people calling for, Bitcoin to go way cheaper, that altcoins would never run, and blah, 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 and they were dead. Some of what you're hearing now. And so this is the best, I guess it just reminds me of what I was feeling during that time period. Now, I don't know if crypto is massively going to run in 3 weeks, or if that massive blow off top happens in 9 months. I think it will happen much sooner than 9 months, but we'll see. It's just an estimation of what may happen. I don't have a magic crystal ball to see the future, but I do know that so far since 2013, every 4 years, Bitcoin and crypto has had a massive blow off top where too many people throw too much money into crypto. The prices get absurd, and it's a great market to sell into, not buy. And then the pendulum swings too far the other way in the bear market, and it's a great market to buy into, terrible one to be selling at. And we're still waiting for that incredible time to sell, and it's not quite here yet. The only selling I'm doing is some repositioning from what's realized some of its potential into other things that have gotten even cheaper that I still have a long-term belief in. And I just picked up 40 million plus additional OMI at these prices because it's ridiculously undervalued in my opinion. And I think that it has a strong future. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. Know that the bull market, the chances are really, really strong that it's still coming. And if you think about the game of 21 or blackjack and what counting cards does, like if you've all seen that movie 21 and these kids go in there and you think that they win every hand, but they don't. They actually lose a shit ton of hands, even when they're counting cards. But overall, because they've stacked the odds against them using research, i.e. counting cards, over time, they make massive gains. And that's how I approach the crypto space, is I use research so that I'm stacking the odds in my favor in a technology that's already going to do good anyway. It doesn't mean every single thing is going to be a win. On average, though, your wins are going to be huge when you win. And if you're making really good bets, you're not even going to lose that often, but you will lose sometimes. Thanks so much for joining us. Enjoy the wrap. You know what this is about. We'll see you all soon.
Came into the space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, shit, right before you could was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss, cause I always make the time in mind. I stick the one out cause I'm patient like that, and I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't leave with my heart. Principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, got parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes it time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, but time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, studying to know that nothing comes easy, but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this road, cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow will be the target. Naysayers come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. Strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time, the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort, cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, say the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes it time fly by, years going so fast. This game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough, and that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.